So never in my wildest dreams did I ever expect this pocket watch case to just cause so much trouble. And maybe it wasn't the case, maybe it's the watch itself, but the combination of this movement, which is a pretty cool movement, and this case that I don't like very much, actually I don't like at all, brings me to a very interesting story that I get to tell you while looking at an absolutely gorgeous watch. Welcome to another episode of Pocket Watch Time. My name is Patrick W. And on today's episode, we get to look at an absolutely beautiful watch that I just got back from service. And so here's the issue. This watch didn't really need a service. This is an absolutely gorgeous Waltham Maximus. It's the 1888 model, which in my opinion is one of the most beautiful models that the Waltham Watch Company makes. There's just something special about this watch. Something about the plate layout, something about the damascening, something about its just big, thick, chunky size. This watch just feels impressive in the hand. So the problem with this watch, when I found this absolutely gorgeous movement, with this absolutely gorgeous and just about perfect dial, it was cased in a case that I just didn't like. You've probably seen some of my previous videos where I kind of am a little bit disparaging towards gold-filled cases. But hey, it's what I collect, and I don't like collecting gold-filled cases. Yes, I know some gold-filled cases can be pretty nice looking, but I just don't like the idea of having a pocket watch case that isn't a solid metal. I don't like a cheap case with an expensive cover. So I'm not knocking you if that's what you like to collect, but it's not my thing. I'd much rather have a solid silver, a solid gold, or hey, I'll take a solid platinum, but those are pretty hard to come by. And so when I found this absolutely gorgeous movement in a bad case, it was always my plan that I was going to find a really nice case to put it in. And lo and behold, one day I did. I found this absolutely stunning solid 14 karat gold case that just looks mint. Almost as mint as the beautiful watch movement that I wanted to put in the case. They were a perfect pair. The two watches are also pretty much from the same period, so it's almost like this watch and this case were meant to be. But here's where the problem comes. I'm not sure how this movement found itself into this original case. Well, that is if it is the original case. But at this time, it is almost impossible to get this movement out of the case. And that brings me to the one big complaint I have about the 1888 movement. This movement has a feature that Waltham pretty much disowned after the 1888. The stem of this watch is actually secured into the movement by a screw and a couple little arms that hold it in place. The problem is, this area gets a little bit fragile. And sometimes things break, and then your stem is stuck inside the movement. And well, that's part of the problem here. The other problem, which I don't know how they ended up getting it to work the first time, this movement is so tight, it can't be removed from the case physically. I tried myself, and I couldn't get it, or at least didn't want to risk messing anything up. And I took it to 3 local watchmakers, and all of them failed at trying to get this watch out of the case. So for almost 2 years now, I've had this gorgeous watch, this gorgeous case, and I just haven't been able to put them together. And that's where this story finally comes together. Because after watching, of all things, a YouTube video, I found just the person who I trusted with a task. So if you're not following his YouTube channel, Chris Spinner not only makes excellent videos, but he's an excellent watchmaker. So I contacted Chris, and I told him about all the antics I've had with this watch and with this case, and I asked him if he was up for the challenge. And of course, he said yes. So off the watch went to Chris's workshop, and several months later, it's finally come home. So here's where I want to show you why you need to get a watch serviced that doesn't necessarily need a service. Thanks to Chris's awesome videos, he actually shot these tiny little segments for me where you can see all the dirt and debris that pretty much lives in all the small parts of a pocket watch. And obviously these pieces of debris, they get in the way of the function of the watch. And so if you don't get these taken care of, at least somewhat, within 100 years, your watch isn't going to keep the greatest time. And this particular area of the watch is really good to have clean because this is the actual pivots and the jewels where the moving parts actually rub and touch each other. So if there's a bunch of dirt, debris, grime, all the gross stuff there, you're definitely not going to have an accurate timekeeper. And I'm so happy to see it's not in the original case. And of course now it got a beautiful servicing, keeps excellent time, and just looks fantastic. Chris really does do an excellent job. During the servicing, he found a couple issues, made a couple repairs, replaced an old mainspring, and of course packaged up this beautiful combination of a watch and a case to help me build one of my dream watches, a beautiful Maximus 1888 in an absolutely gorgeous solid gold case. So this is another set of videos that Chris sent me of him actually putting the watch together, and I think this is so satisfying to watch. Laying all of these little gears down and just making sure the train is all functioning and proper. As you can tell by just the methodical nature of it, it's really hard work. That's a lot of tiny little pieces, and you've got to line them all up. You got to make sure that you're not scratching the bridges and messing up any other parts when you're putting some other parts together. I've been very much tempted to try to disassemble and, play with some of my own pocket watches. I don't think I could ever, due to the degree of cleanliness and cleaning and just the rigorous stuff that Chris does in his workshop. Someday I would hope to be able to break down a watch simply, but after seeing the full disassembly and reassembly of the watch in Chris's videos, I'm absolutely sure the process is well above my skills. There's not much more satisfying than actually winding up a watch and hearing all of those gears rubbing together in just the right way. I think this is just a great sound. And this is probably one of the most delicate things you have to do with a pocket watch during a cleaning when you disassemble and have to reassemble. You've got to lubricate all of these parts. And these tiny little jewels, this is where the friction takes place. So putting this tiny little drop of oil into this spot allows the watch to somewhat perform as friction-free as possible. And I just think it's so amazing to see these tiny little needles, almost like a syringe, delivering this tiny little portion of oil to an area, and that's just enough to keep the whole assembly moving strong. And not to mention, it's just a really close-up, beautiful shot of the movement. You can really see that Damascening there. So if you've got a pocket watch that needs servicing, particularly if there's something special that needs to be done, I definitely trust Chris with the work. I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel, and of course if you need him you can contact him through there. And of course if you just like looking at pocket watches and or wristwatches, Chris's YouTube channel is a whole lot of fun. Definitely worth subscribing to. So a special thanks to Chris. I appreciate the great work you did, finally putting this watch back together the way I always think it deserved to be. And of course, if you've got any questions or comments, please leave them below. If you're interested in pocket watches or just other cool watches, don't forget to give this channel a subscription too. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next week in a new episode. If you enjoyed this content, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel. Please leave a like, or maybe even a comment or a question. The YouTube algorithm loves it when you do that, and it helps the channel. And speaking of helping the channel, I've got 2 avenues where you can donate to the channel. You can join right here on YouTube by becoming a YouTube member, or you can follow the link in the description and join my Patreon. Thank you, I really do appreciate it.